And Town Board, we are live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 3rd work session of the East Hampton Town Board. Carol, would you please read the roll call?
Present.
Present.
Rogers. Present.
Present. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Normally, we start our work session with a public portion where any member of the public may address the board on any topic. But today, we're going to have a little special proclamation, and that'll be followed by bids by Jeannie Croza. We'll have a presentation from the Eleanor Whitmore Early Childhood Center, Joan Overlook and Tim Frazier. CPF Water Quality 2022 recommendations, Melissa Winslow and Chris Clapp. The 2021 Police Department Annual Report with our Chief Sarlo. Family Service League Telehealth Initiative for Mental Health and Substance Use Crisis, also a Chief Sarlo. And an update of our Emergency Communications Capital Project, Eddie Schnell. And finally, the Lake Montauk Harbor Navigational Channel Dredging, Brian Frank and John Jelnicki, followed by Liaison Reports and Resolutions. Without any further ado, I would like to take a moment. If I could ask members of the Hurricanes, please step in front of the dais and line up. So today, it's my distinct pleasure on behalf of the East Hampton Town Board and the East Hampton Town community to recognize the East Hampton Hurricanes, a year-round competitive swim team at the rec center of the YMCA. We congratulate you on your success in winning the New York State YMCA State Championship. Your perseverance, dedication, and skill in achieving this accomplishment is something you should all be very proud of. I know all of East Hampton is. I'd like to also recognize the coaching staff, Tom Cohill, who began with the team almost at the very start back in 2003, Angelica Cruz, Sean Knight, and Sean Crowley, along with Eugene De Pasquale. So congratulations all.
Tom, you want to say some words?
Yeah, do you want to?
Good job, Mouse.
Great job, you guys. Keep it up.
So it's been almost 20 years since I took over the helm of this program. Vanessa Edwards was one of the first coaches that we ever had, so we're happy to have her here today. John Ryan was there when we were really getting this thing off the ground, but this team really came a long way from COVID and really came together and gelled this year. A big part of that were our captain, Summer, Emily, Cammie, Daniel who's here, Sarah's not here, as well as our older swimmers like Jane, and the younger swimmers really put together. We had a solid team this year, and I'm just so proud and so thankful, from the coaching staff to the athletes to the support of the parents and the wonderful support we've had from the town and the YMCA. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for everyone's efforts.
Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations, you guys.
Well done. Now you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you like, but
Right there. I'm just trying to get my arm to the
So those are the only hurricanes I like, by the way. So wait just a moment for things to settle down. At this point, we can go to public portion and take public comments. I have two folks signed up, and then we'll go to the phone lines. First up is Big Bad John Ryan Sr. Welcome, John.
Good. I just want to hand these things out for the board. These are your programs.
Sure, John. I'll pass them down.
And I'm just going to lay them across here. And I'm
Okay.
not sure. You might,
Thank you.
all these different programs. That's my thrill. So besides the hurricanes, our YMCA, which is struggling, this last Sunday, the Y pool was closed. We had our training program. And the way it was opened, because Dick Monahan and TJ Calabrese, who have become lifeguards, these are ocean rescue members, they took over. Why they weren't there earlier and let the public swim, I don't know. But the Y has a serious problem. So you saw the wonderful hurricane team. I think there's 86 of them. It's a unique group. You know, we have our high school teams and all our athletic teams, but this is, 6 through 18, 17, 18. They swim from, some of them swim all year round, but the main group swims from the end of September through March, which ends with their YMCA championship, which they run. But then they run a summer program. But besides that program, there's the high school boys and girls swim team. And there's the most important program the Y runs is the in-school swim program, where before COVID, we had every elementary school from Tuckahoe to Montauk. When I'm saying Tuckahoe, Southampton, Sagaponack, Bridgehampton, Wainscott, East Hampton Elementary School, Springs, Sag Harbor, Amagansett, and Montauk, all coming to the Y, mainly as gym classes, kindergarten through third grade, where every kid had a 6-week program. I'm sorry, probably usually a 2-week program in water safety and upgrading their swimming. And then there was a report card issue. That program is just getting started again. But the thing about that scares the hell out of me is that our junior lifeguard program, 300 in Amagansett, 50 in Montauk and 50 at Main Beach. Our summer program has at most 10% Hispanic. And yet our elementary school in East Hampton, Springs, and Montauk, and in Southampton is 60, 70% Hispanic. So that's where the in-school program is important. Okay, update. I left the programs out there. We'll start with the youngest. We have a NIPA program, summer program that meets twice a week in the summer at Albert's Landing and in Gin Beach in Montauk. That program, we are qualifying kids now. We're getting worried about that because we got 120 parents or kids coming to qualify, and that's double the number that we've had in previous years. So our NIPA program is booming, and they meet during the week. So it's hard for parents to get in the summertime their kids there. The great thing about our junior lifeguard program is that it meets weekends, doesn't compete with the camps. But so in our junior program, which is 9 through 15, No kid can be in that summer program and our NIPA program unless they go to the Y and prove they're good swimmers. And that instruction you pay for. Your Y does not charge us. You pay your instructors, but the parents pay nothing for that swim instruction. And we get parents who are smart enough to come in, get their kids qualified, and then because of camp or whatever reason, they don't come in a summer program. Who cares? Because that makes us safer. We are the only town with all the water surrounding us. I'm just thinking about this. I bet you go down the East Coast, there's not another town that has more water than us, surrounded by us. And the great thing is it's nice and clean, but the bad thing is it's cold. And I just want to stop, Peter. What councilman is in charge of the weather?
Yeah,
What the hell's going on here?
I'm in charge of the weather.
Look, the summer.
How am I doing? How am I doing?
Well, not
I
too
see
good.
you're wearing a short sleeve shirt and shorts. So,
Well, this is on because on Sunday, if you can wear a hat, I can wear a hat, right?
yes.
Is it legal?
Yes, it is.
We're celebrating summer this Saturday at Main Beach.
Right.
We used to go to the Harbor Bistro, but we have a nice, great party, and we are celebrating summer. So that's what that's for.
What time is that from on Saturday?
3 to 8. And come on down, and we even have some chairs from the beach chairs from the ABA, so we won't all be on the deck. But anyway, it should be a fun night, a day. All right, so I mentioned juniors. We also we went last year at Indian Wells and Atlantic Avenue. We had 300 kids on the weekends. Because of the COVID, we have not been asking our returning juniors and nippers to qualify. This year we did. We are insisting that everyone that is going to be in the program this year comes to the Y and prove they're good swimmers. Again, because with COVID, a lot of these kids get out of swimming shape. That's the first time we've done that in 3 years, because even though we ran our program, we had nothing. We didn't have the pool to use at all in 2000. Last year, we had a limited use of the pool, so we only qualified new kids into the program. In 2000, in the year 2000, we only took returnees. So this last year it expanded. This year we expect it to expand even more. And now the last thing would be the Lifeguard Program. We are in the process of, we spent 6 weeks getting our local kids in swimming shape so they can become lifeguards. A lot of the juniors, as they get 15 and 16, come into our Stillwater program, which is now going on. And we then run our ocean program, which starts the Tuesday after Memorial Day at the Maidstone Club. And we even run a summer program. So that's about it. Every program we got is going well. And the one problem we have is the Y, for whatever reason, it can't be assured. We have 450 certified lifeguards, but they cannot find lifeguards. And it's going to impact us badly. They can't find instructors, so the in-school swim program, the ability for people to come out here and use the Y on the weekends is severely impaired, and I just hope they can solve it. We're doing our best. I think about 7 or 8 ocean rescue members, because we wanted to train our kids. We said, okay, we'll give you lifeguards so that when we come to our program, our program at the pool, we'll provide the coverage. But besides that, and especially as the summer comes on, they lost some people that are going to be our lifeguards. I know a number of senior people that were lifeguards there now go to the ocean. That's about it. Any questions?
Right.
Any
And
questions for John?
well, I just want to say, John is on the board of managers of the YMCA.
Yeah.
And when you opened up and said the Y is struggling, that's what you were referring to, was that they haven't been able to find lifeguards.
Yes.
They've been, advertising. They've got year-round positions with benefits, with competitive pay, but it's just been a struggle. And
Yeah.
we're really grateful to the Ocean Rescue that have gone through the process and become, I guess,
Right.
employees of the Y, because for insurance purposes, they had to,
Right.
and went through a process to do that. And we're grateful to them.
And they just picked up a new, we believe, a very good executive director, Molly Terza. So that will help. But if anybody out there wants to be a lifeguard, we'll make you the lifeguard, and we'll get you wherever you want. Ocean Bay, camps in the pool. But we do a lot of that work.
John,
Thank you.
I want to thank you on behalf of the town of East Hampton, all the residents here, for the program that you've, shepherded through many, many years, and it's expanded. And because of you and your efforts and the efforts of others like you, we have a very water safe community, and there's always more to do. We understand that. So thank you. Thanks for coming today.
Right. And I just want to say, I'm the talker, but the guy that's the doer is my son, John, who after the age of 12, I've had no input with. I got this wonderful picture of him looking up at me and just talking to me, and he is giving it to me. He is straightening me out. Thank you.
Thank you, John. It's good to see you. Next on the list, the sign-up list, we have Laura Tuman. Welcome, Laura.
Good morning, Town Board Supervisor. My name is Laura Tuman. I am president of Concerned Citizens of Montauk. I just want literally a minute today to acknowledge and commend the town on two items. The first of which is the release of the draft Coastal Assessment and Resiliency Plan. I want to thank the town for their commitment to making sure that this plan is finished and finalized, and also to Councilwoman Kate Rogers for her leadership in allowing that to happen. So thank you so much. We look very much forward to working with the town to start to implement the plan. I know there's some next steps, but it's been great working with you, and thank you for your leadership on that. Also, I'm here specifically to listen to Melissa and Chris from the town's Water Quality TAC, the CPF committee. I just want to acknowledge the committee. The committee is a fantastic committee. I've publicly stated this time and time again. It is one of the best functioning town committees that I have seen. The process of which they go through is it's a lengthy process, but the input that they have and the direction that they give and the guidance to the town board on projects to fund through the CPF is just the process itself is let alone to be commended. So I want to personally thank Melissa and Chris for all their hard work. You'll hear about it obviously later today, but thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to speak during public comment? Yes, Dave.
Thank you.
Come on up to the podium and introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is David Rakowski. I'm president of East Hampton Little League. East Hampton Little League is losing its beloved fields at Panago, and it's going to Southampton Hospital, and that's great. As a lifelong resident of Montauk, I can appreciate the fact that having closer medical facilities is a great thing. And when this came about, a committee was formed to decide where and how best those fields should be replaced. There was a committee led by Kathy and David, consisted of 12 or so people that were very, very involved in the Little League, both currently and in past years. That committee's recommendation was to build facilities at the CDHC building. CDCH. I knew I'd get it wrong. And that turf would be a far superior playing field to grass. It's come to my attention that some people in the community are against that and that they think grass is a better field to play on. I'm asking this board, what would you like East Hampton Little League and the town residents do to prove that the people that are actually going to play on the field want a turf field? Yeah. I mean, I could go out to our 400 plus Little League players and I can get signatures from 85, 95% of them saying that they'd rather play on turf. I can go to Hampton Bays, which their Little League plays on turf, and tell them how great it is. I can go to Southampton, which is in the same situation. They recently put in turf fields and they love those fields. Grass fields, they're just so hard to maintain. And the town, God bless them, you guys are trying your best, but there's not enough staff for all the maintenance that's truly required from a Little League field or any baseball field for that matter. And like I say, if there's anything that East Hampton Little League could do to prove that we want turf fields over grass fields, just let me know and we'd be happy to make it happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.
Way back.
John,
I'm sorry. Can I make a comment or not?
yeah, if you'd like to come out, just try to make it short because we have some other folks who are probably going to want to speak. And
But way
I
back.
got the chief of police here, we're tying him up,
By the way, I didn't mention the beach committee.
the
Pete.
chief's deferring his time to you. Go ahead, John.
Smart man.
Your beach committee really has taken the ball and ran with it. And the cooperation we get from the village and the town, Drew Smith and Johnny, great. It's always been good. But long ago, we had grass on our high school field. All right. And that high school football team used that field. They never practiced on it. Nobody else could play on it. The only time that we were allowed to use that field was when the high school had a home game there. That was it, because for any other use would destroy it. We put turf down. We've had turf down for 20 years at least, and everybody uses it. Everybody uses it. That's the big difference. The girls' softball team didn't want turf. They wanted a skin infield though. So as soon as we have a turf on the infield of the boys' team, but as soon as you put an infield of dirt or grass or whatever, it's unplayable half the time.
Thank you, John. Yes, sir. Please come to the podium. Just state your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name is John Grish. I also just want to talk about the fields and the turf and the possibility of putting in the turfs over on Stephen Hand's path. I think it's what it will do. I mean, you look at the Hurricanes who are just here today, they're given the opportunity. We put a pool into this community 20 years ago, and now we have state champions. I'd like the opportunity for our kids also. We head up to Eastport. They have beautiful turf fields up there. We have a lot of kids who are in the travel program. These fields are in the wetlands over by the Pine Barrens, and they show no effects to it. And what it does for the safety of the kids is more important in my eyes. There's certain things that happen, weather related, that just can't be controlled unless it's you have a daily person on these fields that control, the dirt around the base. So a kid slides, he doesn't crack his ankle. The mole, trails in the outfield. So, you just can't walk these fields daily and, to make it safe for every kid, even though we would love that. The town has made great efforts here in the last year or two to make these fields wonderful, and they've done a good job. But there's still the safety issue is really what I think we should look at. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else in the room like to address the board? Jason, do we have any callers on the line?
Yes, we do, and I want to meet the first caller right now. We only actually have one caller, so I'll meet the caller right now. Hello, caller 8764. You are on the air. Give me a second. Let me make sure I'm muted. David, you're on. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Town Board. And Jason, this is David Buddha. A couple of housekeeping matters. I just want to let you know that the time delay between the YouTube feed and reality is really very much longer than usual. It's almost 45 seconds or a minute. So right now I'm watching on the screen the prior gentleman. He just walked up to the microphone. And what that means is that for people who are not that familiar with the process and want to speak to the town board and call in, I mean, they don't. If they're watching the TV and waiting for the opportunity to call in, they may totally miss the boat whatsoever. So you need to work on synchronizing the display with the reality so that people are not, as once happened to me, missed the boat because they just called in after it was too late. Number two, I want to thank the Chief of Police for the extremely thorough report that was posted on the town board, as per the usual procedure now, to put the relevant documents and reports that will be discussed at work sessions on the town website. It's extremely helpful to have those things in advance, and that report is extremely comprehensive, as per the usual wonderful quality of the Chief's work product. On the other hand, I know that I'm looking forward to Eddie Schnell's presentation today. It's unfortunate that his usual PowerPoint program presentation, which I'm sure he will have one, was not able to be uploaded before the meeting, so I'll have to be listening carefully. Now, I want to bring up one last thing, and I'll be brief because it's really something that you're going to be discussing and acting on next Thursday, but your advanced agenda for Thursday shows a proposed town declaration of a voluntary vacation for Juneteenth. And the Juneteenth holiday, to me, is really an enigma. I mean, there are hundreds of special days that people celebrate for a variety of reasons. I certainly would, and I'm going to try to choose my words very carefully, although I have no script here. I mean, the entire country should be very, very proud and celebrate the Emancipation Proclamation, and that was issued, of course, effective on January 1st. So January 1st should be a federal holiday and should be called Freedom Day or Emancipation Day. Oh, it already is a federal holiday, which is a good thing. On the other hand, the actions of the former Governor Cuomo to declare it a state holiday for state employees, and the actions by President Biden to do so, I think, for federal employees, should not necessarily mean that the town should move in lockstep with them. I think that your resolution that will be on for Thursday needs to be clarified. It's very confusing. You state in the proposed resolution that it's a matter of mandatory collective bargaining that you need to discuss with the unions before they take an additional holiday with pay. So I know that you're going to have to clarify what it means to observe said holiday in accordance with their respective collective bargaining agreements and or town policy. Does it mean that this year you're going to celebrate Juneteenth on Father's Day, June 19th? That would be nice. Or are you going to celebrate it and combine it with a celebration and close the town offices on June 20th in collaboration with and connection with the celebration of my birthday, which is June 20th? You could do that. That would be nice. But, you know, I really think that this is more a matter of, and I'll say this very carefully, it's really a matter of virtue signaling rather than a real need to have yet another holiday. Is this going to become a school holiday at a terrible time at the last week of school when kids need to wrap up their work or take tests? If it's not going to be a school holiday, why should it be a town holiday? You really have to delve into this deeply and between now and Thursday and clarify your intentions and reasoning. And again, I am 100,000% in support of the Emancipation Proclamation and celebrating it widely, and I think we should do that on January 1st, which is when it was issued. January 1st, it became effective 1863, and not celebrate when it became known to a small group of people, I think in Galveston, Texas, and had a subsequent subsidiary celebration, which has now become the day to recognize the freedom of all people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Jason, did you want to make a comment about the transmission?
Yeah, about the transmission. Like, I just want to let you know that we don't, we haven't changed our settings on our latency at all. We operate on what's called a low latency here on our YouTube stream, and once it goes up to their servers, it's on them. We have we're fully hybrid now. You can call in, you can participate in person, and I completely understand the frustrations about the signal delay. I feel it too. I really wish it was faster. there's one setting that's faster, but I really can't trust it right now because it was considered still in beta testing. And I don't really do that on public meetings, and I try to give it the most secure possible and safe possible way of transmission. But I hear you, and I just want to say thank you for letting me know.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, it just means that it's difficult for newbies to navigate the system if they're watching, and I don't know what's going on television. I switched from television to YouTube because it used to be faster, less of a time delay. But right now, what you see on my computer screen is minutes later or earlier than what is actually happening. So
I got you, David.
Right now, I'm watching.
Yeah, David.
Does it say like 11:31 right now on your computer?
It says 11:29.
It says 11:29. That also might just be your internet connection at that point too. It might be something to do with that. I'll go check that out. But that seems really weird because it goes up to YouTube and then after that it's theirs. You know what I mean?
Right. My computer clock says it's 11:31, and on the screen it's 11:29.
Thank you so much for letting me know, David. I'll look into it, man.
I want to check your internet speed too, Dave. Thanks for letting us know. I feel pretty confident that folks who wanted to speak in public comment had plenty of opportunity to call in. We did have John Ryan on as our first speaker, so that gave us plenty of time for folks to know we were in public comment.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John Ryan, for that.
Have to turn this into an evening meeting.
Yeah. Right. So with that being said, Jason, do we have any other callers on the line?
We have no other callers, David. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
And you, sir, would you like to make a comment? Please come on up to the podium. Morning.
Morning. My name is Vincent Alversa. I coach up at the East Hampton High School, the varsity baseball team for the past 6 years, and coached JV for 2 years. I believe for the past 4 years, we've had turf on the field, and I'm in favor of East Hampton Little League getting the turf. I've probably coached 300 plus travel games, which are all played on turf. The big thing I think for East Hampton Little League having turf is the safety of the kids. Like I said, I've coached 300 plus games, and never once have I seen a ball take a bad hop, hit a kid in the face, or cause any type of injury. And the other thing is, I know I've done it myself. A lot of Little League coaches are showing up an hour or two before a game, raking and lining the fields, doing all this maintenance, and they do a great job. Town is doing the best they can to keep the fields maintained, but it's if it's worn and used a lot, you're going to get bad hops, and that's how injuries do happen in baseball. And I heard, back and forth, natural and turf. With the turf, I've done some research, and it's baseball injuries on turf are way down compared to grass. Mm-hmm. It's significantly lower. So I'm all in favor of the turf fields.
I was hoping you could give us an update on varsity baseball at Monic.
Right now we're 11-3, have a home game today versus 14-1 Sayville. So if you got time, come on down.
It's great. What time?
If we get finished in time.
4:30. Yeah.
All right, that's something to shoot for, guys.
and then Friday at 4:30.
We wrap it up by 4:30.
Any questions that you guys might have? Like I said, I've coached a ton of games on turf. Anything?
No, I don't have any questions, okay. Coach, but I do appreciate you coming out and addressing the board on this topic.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the board this time? Jason, do we have any other callers on the line?
We have no other callers on the line.
Okay. At this point, we can move forward with our work session agenda. Jeannie Carosa, you have some bids for us.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, first we'll start with a mobile food concession at Gin Beach, and that would be with Janine Logie and Ronald Marco Trigiano. They were the apparent high bidder, 3 years at $500 each. They presented the menu, and it looks good, so hopefully it all works out. Next is the Downs Property Demolition. Green Island Group Corporation is the apparent low bidder in the amount of $62,800. $820. Next is the Springs Library accessibility improvements. Carter Mellons is the apparent low bidder for that in the amount of $159,500. Next bid is their air property restoration, Jackson Dodson Company, in the amount of $207,376. Then we have several extensions, first being East Hampton Airport Mowing, Suburban Maintenance and Landscaping Incorporated. Next, supply and delivery of Ford OEM parts, and that's Newlands Bayshore Ford. HVAC repairs and service, and that's a cooperative contract that we do with Sag Harbor School District and McCluskey Mechanical Contractors for that one. And lastly, to extend the professional engineering services for town projects. That's with LK McLean and then also Nelson and Pope. And then I have one notice for the miscellaneous food and kitchenware items for human services. And that's it.
Any questions for Jeannie?
No,
Thank you, Jeannie. Next up, we have a presentation from the Eleanor Whitmore Early Childhood Development Center. We have Joan Overlock, and Tim Frazier. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, board, for putting us on your agenda today. We really appreciate the time to talk with you about Eleanor Whitmore's Early Childhood Center. We have a story to tell, and some of you probably know a lot about it. David, I think, is a graduate of Eleanor Whitmore's Early Childhood Center, but others don't really know a lot about our story. And so we'd like to talk to you this morning a little bit about our story and also talk about the things we're thinking about in the future, and mainly to also thank the board for their support in the past and kind of give you a look at the possibilities that we have at Eleanor Whitmore for the future.
Thanks for joining us today.
Joan is our development director at Eleanor Whitmore.
You know what? I think I need your help. I want to share this screen. Sorry. No. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Great. Thank you. Okay. So, I think a lot of you know us as or refer to us as the East Hampton Daycare Center. And that is where we started. And what many people don't realize is that we've actually been in existence and serving the community for more than 50 years. We were founded in 1969. And we're actually going to be celebrating that this year on June 25th. So there's a bunch of cards here. Save the date. Go to our website and take a look. It's going to be a great celebration of our founding in 1969. It'll be a fun dance party. And we'll be honoring Eleanor Whitmore, our namesake. Anyway, so we started there as a Head Start organization at Boys Harbor. We then, after Head Start really pulled out of the East End, we became the East Hampton Daycare Center. And then over the years, we've expanded. In 1996, we became the East Hampton Daycare and Early Learning Center and moved to our current location, which is on Gingerbread Lane, just down from the Y. And to add to John's list of people using the Y, our center is also going to be practicing water safety for our three-year-old and plus.
We also have the same address, which we're trying to get the post office to change.
Yeah, to change. In 2013, we were renamed as the Eleanor Whitmore Early Childhood Center. And then as recently as 2020, we were very proud to be able to offer free childcare for essential workers, and got a dispensation from the state to include children up to 12 years old. So we're proud of that service to the community, and it really opened us back up to our origin and our history, which is we're more than a child care center. We really view ourselves as an important adjunct to working families, to the year-round working families in the community. The population that we serve right now is 65% of our families are from low or extremely low income households. Almost 60% are from Latinx background, and 20% of our parents are single mother households. So today we welcome more than 100 children every day from 18 months to 5 years old. We're open from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30. Nutrition is a critical part of our program, and for a lot of our children, these are the most important meals of the day. We serve 2 meals and 2 nutritious snacks. During COVID, we supplemented that and began supporting the families, and we now have a pop-up food pantry where we serve 45 families. Parent education is a critical part of what we do because it's not just whole child, it's whole family involvement and education. You know, the first 5 years are probably the most important years of human development, and it's important that our parents are understanding.
If I could just say there too, that's a big emphasis and focus that we have at the center. It was difficult during COVID because of having parents coming to the center, but we're hoping to continue the meetings and informational meetings about child development that are really critical. An organization in Nassau and Suffolk County helped me grow is a real powerful resource for our parents as well as our children and our staff about child development and how important it is to engage their children in lots of different things, especially now that there's a lot of distractions out there, including the internet and other things that are taking time away from families being with their children.
We are licensed by the New York Office of Child and Family Services. There's only 7 child care centers on both the North and South Fork today that are focused on this age group. We're in the process of being accredited by the National Association for the Education of Young Children. When that happens, which should happen by the end of this month, we'll be one of only 266 accredited early child care centers in the state. We have a lot of local partnerships. In fact, we built that into our mission statement, that we actively seek out partnerships that help us serve the children and these working families better. We're partnered with the East Hampton Library. We just started a wonderful program called Book Time, where every child, every 3- and 4-year-old child in the program has their own library card in their name. And we bring the books to them, and they're learning the responsibility of checking out a book and bringing it back and reading together at home. It's a wonderful program started by a board member. We partner with the Springs Food Pantry for our pop-up food pantry. We partner with the East Hampton Healthcare Foundation for our parenting workshops. Duck Creek Farm is a new partner with us. We're going to be partnering with them for cultural programs and also bringing them in as an important partner in the East End Fund for Children, which is a coalition of nonprofits that we co-founded last year. And the East End Fund for Children, I'm just going to do a little commercial here. This is a bag that was created by Citarella for the East End Fund for Children, which is a coalition of 7 nonprofits all focused on children. And they are selling the bags for $20. All of the money goes directly to the East End Fund for Children. And not only that, Citarella has agreed this summer we will be the beneficiary of their roundup. So when you shop from July through the end of August through Labor Day, a percent of the sales will come to the East End Fund for Children. And this is the second year that they've done that. So it's terrific. We're also partnered with Guildhall and with Share the Harvest Farm. How do I do that? Tim, I'm going to let you talk to programming.
Again, there are a lot of childcare centers in New York State and across the country, and they're just childcare centers. They don't really provide an educational program. And Elmer Whitmore has always provided the educational element along with their childcare in the years that they've given service to this community. So our focus is really on high quality developmental appropriate learning programs. And again, they're based on those milestones that have been talked about for years about young children, and especially right now, it's a critical time, and childcare is in the news all the time. And of course, there's lots of initiatives trying to bring more resources to childcare facilities because of the importance of that in most communities, especially after COVID. We found out that a lot of childcare centers went under because the fact that they couldn't be open for working parents and families. So again, now that we come out of COVID, there's even more of a focus on the social emotional needs of young children. And there are a lot of mental health issues that are out there in the community. Again, Kathy knows she's been involved with a task force that's really looking at that in our local school system and local providers. But early children also have those same kinds of concerns, the social emotional concerns and the mental health concerns. And our program is really focused on not just the cognitive learning, but also the social emotional and mental health aspects. We are have been nationally recognized as innovation for narrowing the achievement gap. This is when we had more pre-K classrooms than we have now. Right now we have one pre-K classroom. The rest have gone to East Hampton School District, but we still maintain one of those. And again, we are working with our whole program, including our toddlers through 4-year-olds, and trying to narrow that gap. Staff and specialists are trained in early intervention, significantly lowering the chances of children needing additional educational support. That saves the taxpayers a lot of money in the long run. Again, being accredited by the National Association for the Education of Young Children is quite an accomplishment for the center. We work really hard to put the things in place to meet those requirements, as well as for OCFS, which we are mandated to meet the requirements for licensing. Of course, all those things are expensive. Significant savings, approximately $30,000 per year to educate a child versus $80,000 per year per child with special needs instruction. And we just put that in there because, again, the more we can do at an early age, the less it's going to cost the community in supporting children that need intervention.
And I think, we are seeing more and more children who do have this special need. So we are looking down the road at enhancing the need for bringing in specialists, and we've been starting to be introduced to people in the community that will allow us to shore up that program. We know that alternatives, which is really the only option out here, can't take any more children. So it's an important future focus for us. This is just, we're not the only ones who think that an investment in early childhood education is meaningful. This is some information taken from the RAND Corporation. And every dollar invested in early childhood education can save $7 in the long term through reduced costs associated with remedial education, criminal justice, and welfare payments. I mean, that's a great return on an investment. And yet with that, we know 85% of the brain development occurs before the age of 5, but only 14% of public education dollars are put against early childhood education. And doesn't make sense. Right. We need to begin to change that paradigm, which leads us to this last discussion.
But I think this is important, again, as part of our story, is that we are a nonprofit, and we have tuition. We charge a tuition, but we try to keep that tuition in a very reasonable amount for our parents, and especially those parents that are on low income or need our assistance. So again, it's an important part of the fact that we are not a private institution, we are a nonprofit, and that we are always looking for ways for revenue for the center. The town has been very supportive of that. We are also reaching out to public school system, which we recently did. We're trying to reach out to local businesses and support us. We're also reaching out to other nonprofits. We're just trying to find ways that we can keep our tuition costs as low as we possibly can. Our focus is on working family and again, single parent families, and there is always a financial need in those households.
And we have been told by OCFS that our fees are the lowest in the county. And despite that, we still have a third of our families need scholarship support from us. So they do receive some kind of aid from us. And that's in addition to the people who we can refer to and help process through DSS, through social services. And it is a unique model. So, sorry. Here. This one? Nope. Took it off. What did I do? There we go. So anyway, we have an annual budget of just shy of $2 million. 1.2 million of that is covered in fees. We take that in with the fees from the families, which leaves us a gap that we fill through fundraising of $800,000. The town has been terrifically supportive and generous in the last couple of years in helping us close that gap a little bit. We did have a one-time infusion of federal money from the Relief Act that helped us this year. But as Tim alluded, we are going to be seeking more government funds. We're meeting with the state. We're meeting to understand how can we access more federal funding. We will always continue to fundraise privately and do our private fundraisers. But as we look through this, to date, we've put more than $68 million of private funding into the creation and the running of this center that has helped to educate more than 5,000 children for the town. So we want to keep it up. We want to keep our model. We want to keep affordable. We want to keep our fees low. And we're just reaching out to find as many sources as we can to help us on that journey. So that's it. Thank you for giving us the
Thank you. Any questions from board members?
Yeah, if you don't mind me just stating, so I know Tim mentioned it. I'm a graduate. I went to East Hampton daycare, childcare up on Cedar Street. It was back behind the JV baseball field back in the day. I won't say the year, but you can guess. I don't know if my sister went there because I wouldn't have been born by then. But Eleanor Whitmore, as it is now, the daycare, the child care has been a pillar of early childhood education and intervention in East Hampton for my entire life. Okay. I am now here. I'm completely supportive of you. I will make sure that we get the word out. During COVID, two of my children have gone to Eleanor Whitmore over the years. I still am a father that has one in pre-K in Montauk now, just because of the family. I'm looking in the crowd here right now at a working mother with their child here too. So what you're doing right now is you're providing the fabric of our community, an opportunity and a need in taking care of a need that we have to have out here. I couldn't imagine East Hampton without the Eleanor Whitmore Early Education Center right now. And I think the town is supportive. I know the supervisor and other board members have been. I hope the community continues to be so, because I just could not imagine that day. And I hope we never, ever get there.
I do think it's great that you came in today just to make the public aware of what it is that you do for the community. And I don't think it can be overstated that, providing quality education and childcare makes for a much better and more solid community and pays huge individual and societal benefits over time. And, you are also there during the darkest days of the pandemic, providing free childcare for essential workers. And, I think when we look at our community, every worker is really essential to the community. You can't go out to a restaurant or to a retail shop and be served unless there are people there to work in those businesses. It supports our economy locally, and giving that kind of support to working families is critically important to keeping our community going. And so I want to thank you especially for your efforts during the pandemic. And I know that the town, stepped in and provided additional grant funding to help you meet some of those challenges, which were many. And so, we're grateful to you being there as part of our community as well. So, I think it's just a great opportunity for the public to understand what it is you do and how important that is, and hopefully garner some more support.
Well, we really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this at any time, and we're really moving forward. Our board is very supportive of us growing and expanding and really trying to meet the needs for the young children in this community. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity.
Yeah. And
Thanks for coming.
Your support.
And June 25th, Ellen
Right.
Whitmore will be here in town, and we will be celebrating her as well as the center as one of our big fundraisers for the year.
Looking forward to that. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have CPF Water Quality 2022 RFA recommendations. And we have Christopher Clapp, the chair of the Water Quality Technical Advisory Board, as well as Melissa Winslow, town staff member.
Yeah, just a moment here while Melissa sets up. Thank you all for having us. It's nice to see people in person again.
Agreed.
I feel like it's been forever.
I think this is the most people we've had at a public meeting in well over 2 years now, with the hurricanes coming to be honored.
They might have got kicked off the Zoom. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you could just rejoin it and it should be fine. Do you want me to give? Let me a second. Melissa, do you have the login, the login details on your iPhone? And Bell saves the day. Thank you so much.
Yep.
And we are in.
Just don't forget to share your screen.
Sorry for the delay. I'm Melissa Winslow. I'm a senior environmental analyst in the town's natural resources department. I will be giving an overview of the application and review process, and then hand it over to Chris Clapp, who's the chair of our CPF Water Quality Committee, and he'll go into detail on all the projects that are being recommended for funding awards today. So this request for applications process was developed in 2019 as a method to fund high impact water quality improvement projects that were not already included in our CPF water quality improvement plan for the town. This process allows for the TAC to receive applications with sufficient detail for standardized review, and so they can make direct comparisons between different projects to prioritize funding. This round of the RFA was issued on December 15th, 2021. So we issued a little bit earlier than normal. And then it was due February 15th of this year. We had a total of approximately $1 million earmarked for water quality awards for this round. All of the applications that we receive undergo a thorough review process. They're first reviewed by the town review committee and then go through the CPF Water Quality Committee at length. So we had a total of 10 applications that came in this round. We had 5 projects that were deemed complete, eligible, and will be recommended for funding today. And then we had 5 projects that were either incomplete, ineligible for funding, or low ranking and will not be recommended for funding awards. So this is just an overview of the applications that we received. We had 5 applications that are being recommended for funding. And Chris will go into detail on all of those. Generally, they were primarily wastewater treatment projects, which is one of the largest sources of water quality concerns in East Hampton and all over Long Island, particularly nitrogen pollution. So we had 2 commercial wastewater treatment upgrade projects. These are at the Montauk Anglers Club on Lake Montauk and Main Street Tavern in Amagansett. They're proposing upgrading to IA treatment systems. We had 1 not-for-profit upgrade to a constructed wetland treatment. This is for the Pawlik Krasner House Study Center. And then 1 municipal IA system at the Main Beach Pavilion in the village of East Hampton. And then lastly, we had an application from Concerned Citizens of Montauk for another round of their Fort Pond floating wetlands. So these projects account for a total award of $545,543 for funding upon approval of a public hearing and through the town board. So Chris will go into all of those recommendations shortly. The other 5 projects included 1 sewer service expansion, another constructed wetland treatment project on another site, 2 stormwater abatement projects proposed by homeowner associations, and 1 PRB project. These were submitted but did not receive a recommendation from the committee. These project proposals were either insufficient in detail, missing components, or just need to complete other work that was previously awarded before they can come back and try to request more funding for a similar project. So I know most of you have seen this before. This is just our scoring system that the town and the committee use in order to prioritize projects. This is used as a tool to rank projects for funding. Each project is first reviewed for mandatory criteria as laid out in the CPF law. We look at things such as project feasibility, longevity, and expected success in leading to a water quality improvement that's measurable. Once a project is considered eligible, each project is reviewed for factors including water quality improvement, cost, project readiness, maintenance and monitoring, and evaluation. I also just want to state that that scoring sheet is subject to change as this project is evolving over time, but we always post it with the application sheet so that people that are applying for funding know what they're going to be graded on. One last thing that I'm going to go into before I hand it over to Chris. The town board and the water quality committee developed this septic funding tiers for large-scale septic project funding. We look at prioritizing funding awards in priority areas located either in the water protection district, high flow systems, areas with known water quality impacts, and failed systems. So relevant for today, municipal properties and not-for-profits are eligible for up to 100% of engineering design costs. Commercial properties are eligible for this program for voluntary upgrades only. So if they're under a mandate to upgrade, they're not eligible. If they're in a priority area in the water protection district, they're eligible for 65% of the costs for only the installation. And then if they're not in a priority area, it's 50% of eligible costs. Those awards are also capped at $200,000 for a commercial property. And also, just lastly, these awards are intended to provide an incentive to upgrade and not necessarily intended to fund the full scale of a project for a for-profit entity. So with that, I'm just going to hand it over to Chris Clapp, the chair of our committee, and he's going into detail on the recommended awards.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and the town board. First up, we have here is a commercial application for the Montauk Anglers Club and Marina seeking an upgrade to their existing sanitary system to an IA system that will reduce nitrogen by upwards of 70%. The system is, there'll be installed 3 hydroaction units treating a combined flow of 3,300 gallons per day. an expected total nitrogen reduction of 414 pounds per year. That's a pretty good return being on the water like that. This is a reduction of a point source pollution to Lake Montauk, priority water body within East Hampton. This area was subject to a targeted outreach campaign for commercial upgrades to help improve the waters of Lake Montauk. The total project cost was $163,812.46, a fairly accurate projection there. The project is eligible for 65% of the installation costs, totaling $89,843. The advisory committee recommends awarding 467 East Lake Drive LLC $89,843. Here we have the site map of the project. You can see, hopefully be able to see there, highlighted in the blue on the east side of Lake Montauk near the end of the runway there, the marina, and the site plan of the proposed installation. They were able to save a little bit of money by getting the existing leaching pools certified and available for reuse. So they won't have to disturb those areas. Do you want to do questions as we go, or?
Yeah, any questions from board members?
No.
Please continue.
Okay. The next commercial upgrade project is.
I just have to mention for this specific application here, and when we move it forward, I will recuse myself from this specific request.
Okay, David. Thank you, David. Next up is the Main Street Tavern IA upgrade in Amagansett. I have this here. Okay. Request for funding for an upgrade of a failing commercial system to an IA system. They are looking to also install these are two FujiClean units to treat a flow of 3,240 gallons per day. Their expected total nitrogen reduction is 406 pounds annually. This is a reduction of a point source to our groundwater. While it is not located within a harbor protection overlay district, that is allowing it, it is located within a 10 to 25-year travel time to the Atlantic Ocean and does contribute to our groundwater. The total project cost is $223,950. Again, is eligible for 50% of installation costs with a total of $83,350 being recommended by the advisory committee. And here we have the site plan of that here, kind of located centrally within the area of Main Street, Amagansett. The installation will require an easement from the town to do the install process in the parking lot behind the site.
Questions, anyone?
Well, so I would imagine we would need to get more detail on that before we award the grant funding, right?
Right. So I believe Drew Bennett had looked at the different ways of outlining how they could try and save some more space. Could they put shallower leaching systems in that would take up more space? And so I think they've tentatively agreed upon this layout already as the best possible scenario for both treatment and space constraints. Okay.
So would we want to do that at a work session, have that presented so that we can make a decision on whether we want to give those sanitary easements before we award the funding?
I think that would be the right course of action.
Thank you. Next up is a constructed wetland sanitary system at the Pawlik Krasner house. This was a proposal coming in cooperation with the New York State Center for Clean Water Technology at Stony Brook University. The property is owned by the Stony Brook Foundation, a not-for-profit organization, and operated as a museum. The proposed constructed wetland technology uses natural nitrogen cycles, as do most of these systems, in a mostly passive way. The effluent passes through a bunch of gravel with plants on top, mimicking a wetland system. And it's still in the pilot phase within the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, but has been installed in other places, including Sylvester Manor on Shelter Island. And my former employers, I had one of these installed at our Uplands Farms facility in Cold Spring Harbor. The site has a flow similar to a single-family home of 440 gallons per day, looking for an average nitrogen removal of 28 pounds of nitrogen annually, and likely to get below 10 milligrams per liter and well below the Suffolk County Health standard of 19 milligrams per liter. It is a waterfront property located in the Water Protection District of Accabonac Harbor, a priority water body with sensitive wetlands. Total project cost is $147,170. Since the applicant is a non-for-profit organization, they are eligible for full funding of engineering and installation. With some of the project administration costs removed, the award amount comes to $132,100 to go to Center for Clean Water Technology constructed wetland at the Pawlik Krasner House.
Any questions on this?
On this one, the only question I have specifically was, it's better to fund just a traditional IA system compared to a constructed wetland, the cost benefit of each one on there. But I know that it was debated and brought up and through that. That was my initial concerns on there.
Right. Anytime you have a technology or a project that's still in the pilot phase and they're field built and there's a lot of extra oversight and monitoring and research that goes into it, the price tag per gallon is a little bit higher, correct? But the committee felt the visibility of having something that the general public could interact with was also had a value that you couldn't necessarily put a price tag on.
So the educational demonstration aspect was also part of the reason behind funding this particular project.
Correct, but the fund can't fund that portion of the project. That's being funded elsewhere.
Is there a great difference in cost between the two?
Between a traditional just treatment unit under the ground, currently, yes, there is a cost differential. Per gallon, I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but these field-built systems typically take longer to install and therefore cost more.
Because I believe Pawlik Krasner House is by appointment. You have to make an appointment to go. It's not open to the public, but you just, because of the parking constraints there, you just can't show up at noon on a Saturday and
correct.
You're going to tour the grounds.
Okay. The Village of East Hampton has applied for an upgrade to the Main Beach Pavilion Comfort Station to upgrade to an IA system. They are looking to treat a flow of 4,200 gallons per day and seeking a total nitrogen reduction of 495 pounds annually. This is the contributing area is believed to be split between the Atlantic Ocean and Hook Pond. Hook Pond being an impaired water body, would you like to see some nutrient reduction? And since this is a municipal upgrade, they are available for full funding of engineering and installation, and a total project cost of $254,400. As I said, they're available for full funding. There were some road surfacing, repaving, additional costs that were backed out of the initial recommendation. So the advisory committee recommends awarding $226,000 to the Village of East Hampton for the IA upgrade at the Main Beach Pavilion.
Any questions on this proposal?
It seems like a no-brainer.
And it's always good to see the municipalities walking the talk as well.
So there's 3 separate systems that are going to be on this property. One would be in the lockers, that's going to be upgraded. One in Rent-A-Basket, which will be upgraded. But the commercial aspect is not going to be.
The kitchen is not part of this project. This is for the bathhouses.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
The flow at the bath.
Rent-A-Basket's on the western side. Use the Rent-Baskets.
And is there a reason for that? Not hooking up the kitchen?
The kitchen's gray water only.
The kitchen is gray water only. They have a grease trap and settlement tank and leaching pools. To our knowledge, it's functioning. It was the bathhouses that both contribute most of the pathogens and the nutrients come from the bathhouses, and those were stressed beyond their current capacity.
So we allocate, if we grant this funding Thursday, for instance, this project probably doesn't get done until the fall?
That's correct. I couldn't imagine the village would want to start this in June.
Yeah.
And our final project, our final recommendation for this round is the through CCOM and the Fort Pond Floating Wetlands, a project that has started several years ago with CPF funding, water quality funding, to complete the additional pilot year for the Fort Pond Floating Wetland through the 2022 growing season, my apologies, requesting to install 3,000 square feet of floating wetlands in Fort Pond to build off of the successes from the first year, started in May of 2019. This represents a reduction of non-point source pollution by direct removal of nutrients from the water column itself. So this is more of a mitigation measure than a point source measure. Other benefits include ideally the reduction of harmful algal blooms, which Fort Pond is prone to, and the enhanced dissolved oxygen content of the water column. During their first year, they had over 80 volunteers and would like to continue that education and outreach component, making the residents aware of the value of Fort Pond. I keep trying to see Kate. She's behind this pole.
I'm leaning over. I got you.
The advisory committee is recommending an award of $14,250 to CCOM for the second year of the Fort Pond Floating Wetlands project. Okay, and I have a couple of photos here from their own outreach materials created by CCOM, some of their volunteers, and what the floating wetlands look like when in place.
Any questions?
Not on that, but you had mentioned, Chris, that the committee's been doing outreach to, commercial operations and whatnot. What outreach do you have going on right now?
Melissa, you want to?
In the past, we have done targeted outreach to primarily commercial establishments in Lake Montauk as a targeted area, particularly in South Lake, as a kind of trying to get some of the largest sources to upgrade and try to improve the water quality in that impaired area of Lake Montauk. We've also done some outreach in the headwaters area of some commercial establishments in 3 Mile Harbor. We actually were able to get one of the marinas to upgrade through our program a couple of years ago. So I think we'll, as we move forward, look to different water bodies that have, areas of concern that we can try to target some either commercial or large scale upgrades.
Thank you.
So just to summarize this year's recommendations, or this year's first round of recommendations, we hope to as the final bullet on here, noticing a second round come June, is we have the Anglers Club on Lake Montauk, Main Street Tavern in Amagansett, Pawlik Krasner House, and the Village of East Hampton, and then finally CCOM. The total recommended amount, I have it over here. Thanks, Melissa. $545,000, $543. It's a lot of redundancy going on.
Say that 3 times.
Yeah, I just tried to say it twice and I couldn't get it right either time. But thankfully, it's written on the screen.
Any questions on this? Yeah, we appreciate all of your efforts. I know that the committee, as was stated earlier by a community member, is extremely well functioning, and we are very thankful for your volunteerism and bringing these projects forward, helping us understand, how we can improve our local environment through water quality improvements. And we will certainly give these all due consideration, these requests. And
it's a pleasure to continue to serve the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you. So with your approval, I can move this forward to notice for a public hearing and an upcoming meeting, and then move towards a public hearing towards the end of this month.
I would, and if we can just work with John and his staff about my recusal on how that might affect noticing, and then also any type of potential resolution, so I would be able to participate in the others. It'd be greatly appreciated.
Yep, I'll work with the attorney's office on that.
Thank you.
For the sanitary easement?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to.
I'll reach out to the owner and their expediter and see if we can get that going.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that brings us up to the 2021 Police Department Annual Report. We are pleased to have Chief Sarlo here with us to give us that report. Good afternoon, Chief.
Good afternoon. It's nice to be back in person.
Yeah,
see everybody again.
Yeah.
Instead of on the Brady Bunch boxes on TV.
Life in 3D.
I'll try to be as brief as possible and cover all the main basis of our extensive annual report. The annual report was drafted and distributed to all the media and press outlets, and it's also available on our department website. There's a link you can click on. It's a PDF form. So any members of the public who wish to view it and review it, it's there for all to see. I think it's particularly important, and it's great to be back in person to give the presentation, particularly given the climate of the past several years and the focus on local policing through police reform initiative and everything. So I'm happy to be here. 2021 saw a reduction in almost every major crime category across the board. We had 5-year lows in burglaries, larcenies, criminal mischiefs, and harassments. We also saw a 5-year low in reported domestic disputes. So we're very happy with the trend. And regardless of what we may see in some of the national crime trends through the pandemic, we've been very fortunate, and things have kind of held steady and are starting to trickle back down.
Is that because people are just afraid to interact with each other?
We're trying to figure out exactly why, but right now we'll take it.
Sounds like 6 feet distance works.
Yeah.
We're holding steady right at about 20,000 calls for service per year, around 19,000 and change. Just to give a snapshot, about 30% of our call volume is in Montauk, and about another 30% is handled out of our Sector 5, which includes Wainscott. And the reason that number is skewed is because of Wainscott headquarters, which is where we handle a lot of walk-in complaints and generate a lot of investigative cases. So that's where the split falls. Quality of life complaints regarding residential noise, parking, town code issues, and civil disputes continue to be a significant portion of our workload. We also have continued to experience an enormous amount of 911 hang-up calls. With cell phone technology and cell phone signal issues, dropped calls into 911 have spiked threefold in the past 5 years. These are very challenging for us to navigate, as many are pocket dials at a construction site. Many are people hold the phone too tightly for too long, and it triggers a 911 call. There's a lot of issues that play into it. Improved technology doesn't always help everyone. So it's a challenging situation because using our dispatchers, we try to screen out what the actual call is and figure out if we can get enough information from the person when we recontact them to not have to send an officer. But it can also at times become a little bit chasing our tail, trying to locate where the dropped signal came from. And we can't just ignore them, because we have had several instances in the past few years where upon digging around for a little while and tracking someone down, our officers were able to intervene in some serious situations. We're able to stop a domestic dispute. We're able to actually save someone's life in a suicide attempt. So we're trying to find a way to reduce the number of calls, but it's our single biggest volume call right now. And it causes a lot of driving around and a lot of wasted time where officers could be doing other things. So that's just something I wanted to touch on. Unfortunately, we did experience 4 fatal narcotics overdoses during 2021. And there were also 3 suicides. So those are tragedies within our community. I still feel, 1 death is too many, but as a community as a whole, with the mental health services that are provided and the social service structure that's here, our numbers are far fewer than most of our neighboring communities. And we're very fortunate in that. And we continue to focus on trying to work on those issues proactively. Just an interesting note, we had 0 ICE or Department of Homeland Security immigration detainers within our department in the past calendar year. We were averaging somewhere between 3 to 5, which in our work with OLA and the advocacy groups, we had worked to really clean up our process to ensure we were only honoring criminal holds and not honoring just the immigration hold, but also ensuring that the process was followed through accurately and clearly. And it's dropped off to virtually none. So that's something I just want to make sure to point out. We're working actively to ensure transparency and make sure that vulnerable members of our community feel comfortable coming forward to report crime and understand that, unless there is a criminal warrant out for somebody, that we handle their case just as with them as an individual. And that's been a very positive. And, the fact that we haven't had many detainers issued, or they've come into us, it also shows that, within our community, we're not harboring, a lot of criminal behavior, and that's a positive thing, as you can see in our overall crime statistics. Between calls for service, arrests, traffic stops, and other police actions, we had well over 30,000 interactions with the public in 2021. We received 2 civilian complaints. Additionally, we had just 8 incidents of use of force reported by our department. That led to only 6 officers being injured in the line of duty in 2021, which is the fewest reported in the last 10 years. So those are all very positive, things that we look to as improvements in our interactions with the community, and improvements in our training, and improvements in the relationship we have within the community. Having said that, our enforcement numbers continue to lag behind our traditional norms. There's numerous factors that impact productivity. COVID-19 protocols for officer safety, various duties regarding monitoring of state COVID guidelines, some of the issues with bail and discovery reform laws, and ultimately staffing shortages are the main culprits that have caused our numbers to trickle off. We had 5 officers who were out the entire calendar year of 2021 due to line of duty injuries. And obviously, as I've discussed before, a lag in being able to hire to replace because of not enough available seats in police academy classes has put us a little bit behind. Basically, our baseline for available staffing for each patrol shift was drastically reduced over the last year and a half. And then when you throw in positive cases of COVID-19 amongst our patrol ranks, it greatly reduced the number of officers we had on patrol at any given time. Based on the time of year and what the current guidelines were, a positive contact was 5 to 10 days. And when we're already thin staffed and about 38 or so of our members contracted COVID at one point during the calendar year, you can see how that just put excessive strain on our staffing numbers. We had about almost 100 shifts that needed overtime to cover staffing last year. So when we're putting out minimum staffing or having to call someone in on overtime to cover the staffing, you can see how that greatly reduces our ability to have extra officers and free time to be able to go out and be proactive in their enforcement efforts. So we really seem to be coming through that. We've got 3 officers graduating the police academy. We have 2 part-timers just graduated. We're in the process of canvassing to hire again for fall academy classes. And we're hopeful that as our next wave of retirements go through, things will start to balance themselves out and we'll be one step ahead of the attrition rate. And that should give us the availability to have the officers on the road that we need to. I appreciate all the support from the board in working with us on the budget to be able to try to proactively hire and bring in additional staff as needed, and to work with me on the overtime budget. It's been much appreciated, and we're hope to balance some of that out this year. With regards to training, the department continues to be on the leading edge of progressive and modern policing tactics and best practices. New technology, enhanced safety equipment, and comprehensive review of our cases has assisted with advancing the department training and the overall officer development. Some highlights of our intensive training catalog include tactical policing with impartial perceptions, firearm simulation with de-escalation, mental health first aid, disability awareness, school threat assessment, human trafficking awareness, child forensic interviews, social media investigations, aquatic death investigations, mass casualty training, and many, many more. We often host advocates from OLA and the retreat to come into our training sessions and engage in an open dialogue with our officers to ensure that the issues facing the vulnerable members of the community are shared, and the officers also have the opportunity to discuss the interactions and types of issues they face in their enforcement efforts. We continue to train monthly for our specialized units, our dive team emergency services unit, which is combined with East Hampton Village and Sag Harbor PD, and continue to maintain a child safety seat team, bike patrol unit, and motor vehicle collision investigation unit. Our East Hampton Town Marine Patrol had an extremely busy and challenging year as well. Calls for service on the beaches continue to escalate, and the number of people using the sand and waterways during the summer months continues to rise. From shellfish, I always have a hard time with that one, license checks, 4x4 permit monitoring, beach fires, pedaling on the beaches, mooring violations, and monitoring permitted businesses and gatherings on the beaches. The extent of their scope of work continues to be exhaustive. With ambulance calls, swimmers in distress, accidents, and quality of life complaints, Marine Division is spread very thin. Meeting their training requirements, as well as participating in the East End Law Enforcement Marine Law Enforcement Task Force, Firefighting Task Force, and participating in OpShield enforcement efforts, makes for a busy and challenging schedule for our peace officers in the Marine Patrol. I'd like to take a minute to recognize Chief Harbor Master Ed Michaels, who retired, sort of, in 2021 after over 30 years of service to the town. Ed has transitioned to a part-time role, assisting the town in numerous ways with his expertise in training, public safety, and we thank him for all his dedication and commitment to public safety in the community. Senior Harbor Master Tim Treadwell is taking over the reins on the day-to-day operations of the Marine Patrol and is doing a great job. We're working very closely together to plan for the upcoming summer season. A couple quick points. I'll try to wrap up with this, just to address police reform and reinvention initiative. I think this is a good time and place to address that, as it's part of our goals and objectives. There were 5 main points of emphasis that our townwide committee has targeted for continued development and focus by our police department: training, language access, accountability and transparency, community outreach, and officer well-being. We continue to improve and advance our training, as I previously mentioned. We've continued to expand language access with the addition of dozens of cell phones in the patrol cars that were donated by OLA, which give instant access to language line support. We've streamlined our civilian complaint and complement procedure. We've ensured posting of civilian complaint and use of force data for public review. We've complied with all 50A requests, which are personnel record requests. We've improved community outreach efforts through social media and in-person events. We've enhanced programs such as drug take-back days, senior citizen crime prevention forums, youth and parent substance abuse, technology and cybercrime awareness forums, and participation in the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Task Force. We've also made strides to improve police officer well-being with increased access to the East End Law Enforcement Peer Support Response Team, with officers trained in specific peer counseling and cross-trained through each of the East End police departments to be able to assist each other during times of crisis or incidental stress calls. We've also continued to promote wellness and awareness training for critical incident stress. I'd like to take a moment to congratulate our Police Officer of the Year, Officer James Jessa, for his outstanding work during 2021, along with all of our award recipients. I'd also like to take this moment to recognize recently Officer Grace Peterson, who went above and beyond at an active maternity call and was able to help deliver a healthy baby girl on a front porch while awaiting an ambulance. This was truly great work, and we feel it really highlights the community-oriented service our police officers provide the citizens of East Hampton. We're proud of the department and recognize that there is always room for improvement, and we'll continue to strive for better service and relationships with the community and with the vulnerable within the community, and to focus our efforts on fairly and impartially enforcing the law for the peace and good order of the community. That's the nuts and bolts of our summary of our annual report. Before I move on to the next topic, which will dovetail into that with the mental health crisis issues, is there any questions or concerns you want to follow up on anything with the annual report itself?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that probably there's not a better example of community policing than to have an officer deliver a baby on a front porch.
Yeah.
But I think that's, shows the exemplary training and character of our local force. And, part of that is a tribute to your leadership, Chief. I want to thank you. You mentioned it's nice to be in person again. It's nice to see all the people here. And, we're honoring our local swim team, the Hurricanes, and seeing the young people. And the room was filled with parents and others. It's good to be back. I just would like to thank you and the police department for the 2 years that we just gone through. Very challenging times for all of us across every level. And, having you personally as a member of the Unified Incident Command structure in pandemic response was reassuring and helpful. And I just want to thank all the members of the department for getting us through that difficult time and rising to the challenges that we all had to face.
Thank you. We truly appreciate it. I appreciate the feedback, and our officers feel the support of the board and the community. We truly, I think, have a progressive and positive relationship that is community policing. I appreciate that.
No, go ahead.
Ladies first.
What I wanted to mention as part of community outreach, we have a very robust program within our schools.
Yes.
And it might be helpful if we had a presentation in an upcoming work session from our school officers that do the DARE program, that work in the high school.
Absolutely. And I did kind of skip over that. That's been the foundation of our basic community outreach programs. We try to make sure that we reach the students in the school at a young age. We try to make sure that we're in constant contact with the parents and the teachers. We really feel that's the largest population that we have a chance to have positive interactions with. And when you build those positive relationships early, it helps, as you move down the road. And, obviously we have some tremendous officers involved in those programs, and we constantly train and look to improve and modernize. I always joke around, it's not the old just say no DARE program anymore. It is built. It's a foundation of good decision-making, of upstanding for other people. It's recognizing character traits. It's understanding the challenges that our youth face in cybersecurity and the instant access to being able to see everything on the internet and access to whatever, illicit narcotics may be out there more easily available than there ever used to be. And it's a very important aspect of what we do. And I was remiss for not mentioning that, but you're right. That's the foundation of what we do for community policing. And I would love to get at some point in the future, maybe leading into the school year again next year, have my team come in and give a nice presentation to the community so they can understand it's not the old just say no DARE program. And
the amount of training that goes in.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
I've spoken to some of your officers after they've come back from training, and it's
very
pretty
extensive.
intensive.
Yes. Yeah. And we're entrusted with having a sworn police officer in the schools with juveniles, and striking that balance of building the trust and helping the school while also working through some very difficult issues with the kids, whether there's legal issues, social issues. It's a very challenging situation, and it takes an extensive amount of training and commitment to do it right. And I appreciate the feedback on that.
And two other things I wanted to mention. One is, and you touched on it, the drug take back days. We just had a drug take back day on Saturday. I came by and saw, Sergeant Alversa, police officer Devin Toya there. And from what I understand, they collected over 30 pounds of medications, prescriptions, over the counter, drugs and whatnot. And I just wanted to let the community know that if you didn't have an opportunity to stop by here on Saturday, that there are still, they can still drop it off at police headquarters in Wainscott and in Montauk, the senior center. When it's open, they have the red box as well as White's, and obviously the East Hampton Village headquarters as well. So folks, if you missed your opportunity, go to one of those establishments and drop off.
No, I appreciate that. And our box at headquarters was just emptied out. It was full again. So, people are doing a good job of keeping those medications out of kids' hands, out of getting into the wrong places, out of the groundwater. And we appreciate the public's support with that.
And then your team also put together an incredible forum last Wednesday night at the East Hampton High School with Dr. Nick Carderas and Kim Lauby. And it was pretty sobering to hear those two speakers. And the good news is LTV was there. They filmed it, and parents and community members will be able to see that replayed.
Yeah. Please, while we have this forum here today, anybody who gets a chance, anyone who has children of any age, please take a minute to go on and look at that and follow it. It's, like you said, it's sobering to see what our children are exposed to and what they have access to, and how much things have changed. There's a lot of challenges in helping our youth navigate the teenage years these days. It's quite different. So
it really was. I'll just jump in for quickly and thank you that I attended as well, that forum, and it is quite sobering. Particularly we know the substance abuse has been around for a while, but the screen addiction was particularly sobering. And I do recommend as well, being the new person on the board, having fresh eyes, just to be made more aware of the traps that are out there for our kids. And that all ties into the other work that you're doing on the next topic, but also just quickly looking at the report again with fresh eyes, new to seeing police. I'm just astounded at how many areas in our town and how many calls you respond to on a yearly basis, and your team and the whole department. And again, I echo my colleagues in thanking you and the whole department for all that you do. There's so many things that the community, because they don't see these things on a daily basis, are not even aware of that you're doing. So thank you for all of that. And the training classes are amazing. How much training your team goes through.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It's interesting. We constantly try and stay one step ahead on training, but it's constantly evolving. There's constantly new technology, new guidelines. We're ever expanding in law enforcement as a whole. What we're focusing on, making sure our people learn, and it's a big challenge, and to find enough man hours to pull people off the road to get them the training they need. That's another issue. A lot of larger departments don't experience that we do. We have limited dates and shifts available to get people into those training classes, and that impacts the staffing on the road. So, it's a trade-off, and we have to make sure they're getting the best training that they possibly can get, and that they stay up to speed on best practices and everything. And it's a challenge. And I appreciate that when you start looking through and you see the extent of what people call us for, and jack of all trades, what we handle, it's a little enlightening. And, I always try to call for people to take a look at this when they worry about our response time, or, why a situation wasn't handled immediately, or how come we're not down there sitting on this speeding complaint area. And we're trying, we're doing the best we can. And in 70 square miles and 20,000 calls for service a year, we're spread pretty thin, and we're doing the best we can to focus our efforts in the most important areas. So
thank you.
So last night I had the Montauk CAC. I would have mentioned this in my liaison report, but part of the discussion always out there in Montauk is how are we preparing for enforcement for the upcoming summer season and the onslaught of the greater masses, and particularly on the beaches. Knowing that Marine Patrol is now going to be close to fully staffed as possible, it's nice to hear that through the unfortunate confluence of retirements and also the police academy not being offered, we were very thin last year.
Absolutely.
You mentioned you came to the Montauk CAC. We discussed that. It was nice to be able to let the Montauk CAC last night know, and then also hear it again from you today, that we are in a better position than we were. That was COVID driven. And I'm looking forward to this upcoming summer season being properly staffed or to a better point than we were in 2021.
Yeah.
It just only makes your department more efficient and also the residents more protected. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's an interesting note, and we'll get to the next topic very quickly. But when you go minimum staffing and then you get the COVID 10-day quarantine, and you have to bring officers in to cover the shift on overtime. Well, that's less officers that can take overtime shifts to go do quality of life enforcement on the street in Montauk at night too. So you're kind of robbing from one pool to fill the other, and you have to fill the necessity of handling your calls for service first. So it had an exponential effect on our ability to handle some of those issues that Montauk faces in the summer. So keeping our fingers crossed, we're ready to go. We have a lot of good plans in place for this summer. So with no further ado, I'll just move into the next topic. I'll give you a very brief presentation. Family Service League and Stony Brook University Hospital have partnered together. We have a new program. It's a telehealth mental health services initiative. Just to give everyone a very brief background, under public health law, mental health law, police, when we respond to a call where someone may have expressed suicidal thoughts or made utterances that would indicate they may be a threat to themselves or others, we have a duty to get that person care. And ultimately what that means now is the officer has to transport that person to Stony Brook University Hospital to CPEP for an evaluation. Quite often at times, the person may have said something to somebody on the phone, or they may have just acted out of frustration and said something. And while we all may be able to decipher whether or not that was a true and meaningful utterance, it puts the police department in the town in a very tricky situation for liability, that if we don't get that person to the services they need and something were to happen, we fail to provide the necessary support for that person. So this is one of the best bonus things that have come out of the pandemic for us, is the advent of telehealth and the availability of certified social workers or psychiatrists, psychologists on call with a dedicated police law enforcement only number for us to access. When we go to one of these calls now, we get the basic information from the person, the individual, we find out all the information we can to pass along. We contact the telehealth services. The police officer has a brief discussion, relays the information to the professional. The professional is then put directly in contact with the individual at their residence, and they begin a telehealth screening process directly over the phone or an iPad, and have that screening as they would if they were being screened for intake at Stony Brook. And this program piloted out of Suffolk County with several precincts and Southampton at the end of 2020 going into 2021. And it's seen up to an 80% reduction in transports to Stony Brook for psych evaluation. So we typically, if you look at our annual report, anywhere from 70 to 100 of these calls a year. What that means ultimately is you have two police officers taking someone into custody, putting them in a police car and driving them to Stony Brook, which could be from Montauk on a Friday in the summer. The number of man hours lost off the road was astronomical under the old practices. And also the experience of someone in crisis having to sit in the back cage of a police car and be transported for an hour and a half to Stony Brook University. It was bad for everyone. This new telehealth process should allow, if we go down to 20, we get only 20% of those are transports. That's 80% more patrol time out on the road for our officers who are now handling those calls. And that's 80% reduction in that negative interaction with that person who's in a mental health crisis. And there still will be times when, yes, this person is in crisis, they should come in and we should see them here for a prolonged period of time to do a further in-depth evaluation, and we'll do what we normally would do. But the fact that we can now turn that person over to a mental health care professional who, after a brief evaluation, will tell us, we've got this, we have all the person's information, we have a good handle on the situation, we'll stay in contact with the person, you guys can go. And then ultimately, that healthcare professional sends us a synopsis and paperwork that we need to file in our case report in the computer so that we're covered as well. So that, we've alleviated our legal responsibility, and the person has been screened and gotten the care that they need. Ultimately, that may lead to further evaluation. It may lead to further appointments. It may lead to, oh yeah, well, had a bad day and I said some things I shouldn't have said and everything's fine, and it works itself out. But this is a huge win-win for East End law enforcement and our community that we serve, because you're just drastically reducing the number of negative interactions. And really, when you think about it, we were talking about the schools. If you have a 15 or 16-year-old kid who goes through this and they get taken out of school, or, they have to leave home and go to Stony Brook with police in the police car, that negative interaction really plays into their perception of the police. No matter how nice the guys may be and no matter how well they may treat them, they put that kid having a bad day in the back of a police car and took him up to Stony Brook and left him there. So, I just think that this is going to be one of the best byproducts to come out of the COVID changes, with being able to use telehealth and through police reform, where we're reducing those cases where the police have to act in that manner. And, quite frankly, numerous of our employee injuries were as a result of mental health crisis or substance abuse issue, where someone was being taken into custody and became overly combative, and the officer ends up getting hurt trying to use the least amount of force possible. So this is a win-win. We've just kicked off. We just did the training. We've just updated the protocols. It went in phases. It rolled out, went up to the North Fork for a month or so. It's working fine. We wanted to make sure we didn't overwhelm the available telehealth professionals who were on 24/7. We wanted to make sure the system could still handle everything. And it's now rolled out. East Hampton Village, Sag Harbor, and us, who all use the same 911 system, have all started this with the beginning of May ourselves. And we have high hopes that this is going to be very beneficial for everyone. So that's the program. Does anyone have any questions on it? Any concerns?
Any questions?
It's great. Phenomenal. Great program. Yep.
Excellent.
Okay. Anything else? I think I was a little longer than Mr. Ryan, but
I have.
I don't think so.
But you're actually on the agenda, so you get more time.
I love Big John. He's the best.
So, absolutely. Absolutely.
Without further adu, I'll turn it over to Eddie to update.
Yeah, that's great. So our next topic is
That's an
update
important
of the
piece in the puzzle as well.
Absolutely.
update of emergency communications capital project. Thank you very much, Chief.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Eddie.
Yeah, good afternoon. Unfortunately for Mr. Buddha, no PowerPoint. So a bulk of the system users moved over in April 2021. We had a very accelerated cutover plan to get ready for last summer. So from May 1st of 21 to 22, system handled 1.89 million calls.
Wow.
Now a call could be Central 92, 10-4. That's a call.
So when you say calls, you're just talking about transmissions versus
it's
the
not
chief
it's
calling.
not a call for service.
Right.
It's a simple to
That's a lot of chatter.
Yeah. So on the system as primary users, there's just over 1,100 subscriber radios on the system, and they're used every day on our system. There's also about 2,800 additional radios that are neighboring agencies, Suffolk County, state police, feds, that are co-programmed so that they could come here and operate on the system if they're here. So a lot of hardware in the field. So that's kind of the system over the past year. We've also got some construction still ongoing on expansion sites. The Gator site, the power was finally turned on yesterday, and that's almost marking the completion of what we call civil work. So now we can start scheduling, putting the radios in and getting the site on the air. They're hoping for Memorial Day. Schedule's looking a little tight. So we're hoping shortly after. Montauk 2, the new tower at the dump in Montauk, should be on the air next week. The Springs temporary site for Gann Road, we're having some supply chain issues like everybody else. The original goal was early April. That got pushed out pretty quick to Memorial Day. It's looking pretty tight. They're saying it's going to be here in 2 weeks, but that's a little tight to get everything.
So what equipment are we waiting for on that?
The Motorola equipment, the transmitters, receivers, site controller. Everything's on order. It's just everything.
Just needs to be affixed to the temporary tower and put on
We
location.
need to build it. Yeah, the temporary tower is in Yaphank. We have the generator, we have the EPS. Everything's in process. It's just when it gets here, and we'll get it up as soon as we can. And the UHF paging system, which the fire departments use to activate their pagers for alarms, that's been undergoing an upgrade. We're going to cut over to that next week. That's been a long time coming. So that's pretty much it.
Eddie, have you been in contact with the folks at American Tower? I noticed that in the paper they published for NEPA, so I'm guessing that they're getting ready to apply to the planning board. But I know that there's obviously the important component is our emergency communications equipment.
Yeah, so the NEPA application, that'd be part of their antenna structure registration with the FCC. They don't actually need to do that until they have town planning, but I know they've got all their engineers working on it, and they've asked a few right questions recently. So it sounds like they're getting close to filing their application with the planning board, but they've not given any sort of timeline as to when they're going to do so.
Okay, thank you.
In the site at the fire substation, is that tower operational right now also?
No, so that one's in the next phase, still to be purchased. Motorola is working on the quote for that, as well as the Blue Bay Tower. That'd be a package deal, but they are working through that.
Thank you.
We'll probably have that price sometime this summer.
Any other questions for Eddie? Okay, Eddie, thanks very much for the update.
Yeah.
We look forward to being completely completed. So that brings us up to our last agenda item, which is Lake Montauk Harbor Navigational Dredging. And I think we have Brian Frank is going to be zooming in.
He's actually walking in now. I didn't know he's coming.
Oh, here he is.
He's zooming down the sidewalk.
But there's, we got a couple of answers to some remaining questions that we had, which is helpful for us.
And welcome, Brian. You're on.
Wow, did you sign it?
Ann said you were going to zoom in, and I didn't realize it was going to be running down the sidewalk.
Really zooming in.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's quite all right.
More active version.
Your timing is actually very good.
Yeah,
we just got to you. So
I expected Eddie to take a little longer. Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board, councilman, town clerk. I'm here to give you an update about the Lake Montauk Inlet project. So, as most of you know, Lake Montauk is the only federally maintained inlet in town. It's, excuse me.
Take a deep breath.
Catch your breath. And...
Easy.
Huh?
I can start it for you.
Would you?
Yeah. So we had a couple of unanswered questions that we were trying to get some feedback from them on. One of which there's a provision in there about the non-federal sponsor, which is the town, providing local service facilities, and we wanted to know what that consisted of. And so they did get back to us and basically said that it appears to them that for this project, all the facilities that would be needed are already up and established and existing. So I don't think there's any cost exposure to the town for providing those facilities that at least that we can see at this point. Then we also had some questions about what the real property interests are that might need to be acquired to let this project proceed. We don't really know, or actually we don't really think that there will be any, but at this point, they're basically telling us that they need to get to the point where they do their planning and engineering and design work before they can tell us for sure what property interest might be involved. And they'll need our initial contribution, which is about $123,000 from their estimate, in order to start that project. and move it forward. But it's really for the dredging. We really don't expect there to be any real property interest that we need to acquire. I think we have the bottomlands interest, and we have the title to the up to the beach areas where we're going to be putting the dredge spoil. I think we're pretty much set. So we didn't think there was a real issue.
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of whether or not they're the public portions would be large enough to, accept all of the spoil, or whether there might be some additional transfer of the sand further down the beach, right?
There's kind of a question mark with that, I guess, until they get into their engineering details. So, if we needed easements for placement from private property owners, I would generally think they'd be very happy to accept
I know I would be if I lived on that stretch and somebody told me you're going to cart in some free sand. I think I'd be ecstatic.
Exactly.
Well, it's a long time coming in a lot of respects. The existing federal inlet is 12 feet deep. It's 150 feet wide, and it includes, in addition to that 150-foot width, a 50-foot wide deposition basin that's there to allow the sand someplace to go before it actually fills the navigational channel. The feasibility study has been ongoing for a fairly long time and has taken on several different iterations before it was finalized in 2020 in a manner that I think was is really consistent with what the town had been looking for a long time and is consistent with the LWRP. And it's pretty clear that the existing parameters of the inlet are inadequate. Lake Montauk still serves, basically the largest commercial fleet in the state of New York in terms of financial landings and pounds per fish. There's an increase in the number of groundings, including unladen vessels leaving the inlet, let alone when they're coming in. Over 500 boats a day use the channel either for commercial or recreational purposes in the warmer months. So it took a while. The importance of the project has been there for a long time. The new inlet parameters are to deepen that inlet from a depth of 12 feet at mean lower low water to a depth of 17 feet and increase the deposition basin from 50-foot width to 100-foot width. That's going to produce more sand, especially initially, and that's going on those western beaches on Soundview Drive. So the project does have the community storm reduction incidental benefits. That's good for Soundview. That's good for Culloden. That's good for everybody out there. And there may be additional easements that are required that the town will be responsible for obtaining once the Corps does get into that engineering and design phase. To do that, the next steps are for the town to enter into a project partnership agreement with the Corps of Engineers. And that basically commits the town to certain financial and real estate obligations as their end of the non-federal sponsor. And that's where we are now. In conjunction with doing that, the town will also be participating in the environmental review, the interagency coordinated review among the Corps and the DEC so that the town can fulfill its obligations under the State Environmental Quality Review Act.
Any questions for Brian?
Yeah. Is there an indication of start date at this at all? Or is this just still too early right now?
Well, the engineering and design phase is expected to take about 18 months. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say an actual initial implementation date. I think the feasibility study targeted 2030, but I'd be better, obviously, if it's sooner than that.
I just asked because I know I have a fisheries meeting upcoming, and any advance warning to anyone is greatly appreciated. I'll let them know that. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
This is something I know that the fisheries support because as you're talking about unlading boats touching bottom on their big laden boats, have a very narrow window to get in there. And sometimes they have to come in at the right tide. If you don't do that correctly, it's tough to come around the breakwater.
And
so
weather conditions can compound that problem as well.
There's been some incidents of that recently then too. So
I think there were as many as 9 groundings in 1 year recently.
So I think it's safe to say it's the actual project's probably a couple of years out. before it would start?
The construction phase, yes.
Yeah. But obviously, the sooner we get started, the sooner we get done. So.
No.
So at this point, we'll be waiting for the Corps to present the project partnership agreement after they do some.
You have a draft of it now. They're looking for the that financial statement.
Financial statement saying that the town
self-certification.
has the financial wherewithal to meet its commitments under the agreement. That I believe we had signed a previous draft of that for the other project, and they're asking for
an updated one, correct?
Updated one for this. So,
and then that PPA, that agreement will go up through the various command of the Army Corps of Engineers and come back for a final execution by the town board.
There you have it.
It's the glacial speed of East Hampton government. The glacial speed of the ECOE is, oh man. I don't have to tell you that, Brian.
No.
Yeah.
I'm still supportive of this project. It is a necessity, not just for our commercial and rec needs, but also for the health of the lake too.
Any other questions or comments?
Nope.
Great. Thanks so much, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Nice to see you.
You can take your time walking back.
And that brings us up to liaison reports. Kathy, you have a liaison
I do,
report
and
for
it's
us?
brief because some of the topics I brought up during Chief
Right.
Sarlo's was in my liaison report. But I just wanted to say that the East Hampton Senior Center reopened yesterday after being closed for a week and a half. All the activities are up and running, and we're requiring masks and temperature checks for all the seniors that are participating in the programs and using transportation. Everyone seems very happy to be back, and they appreciate the screening process to keep them safer. We're also, continue to run a number of free wellness activities for residents that are 60 plus. Every day there's a program or two going. We've got floor yoga, chair yoga, qigong, healing circle, meditation. We also are now starting up with the first Tuesday of each month. There's a free blood pressure screening from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So if folks are interested in any of these programs, they should reach out to Human Services at 631-329-6939 or go on the town website. I'm going to have a resolution on for Thursday. We've got a new program for those that are 60 plus entitled Fit and Strong. This is brought to us by the Ed and Phyllis Davis Wellness Institute at Southampton Hospital. And it's a senior fitness dance class. It's going to be offered every Wednesday for 6 weeks, beginning Wednesday, June 1st from 1 to 2. And that's going to be at the Senior Center on Springs Fireplace Road. Just want to get everybody up to speed. I've been talking for the last couple of weeks about the community engagement portion as we want to talk about the new senior center on Abraham's Path. The designers and architects from R2 are going to be out later this month. So we're offering a number of different ways to be involved. One is a virtual session, which is going to be offered on Wednesday evening, May 18th from 6 to 7. We're also going to be doing in-person at the center for those folks that are current users of the center. And then later in the afternoon, we're going to engage our staff at Human Services. We're going to be taking a tour of the East Hampton Food Pantry, and the group also wants to meet with Hugh King, so we need to find a time that's convenient for Hugh. And then on Saturday, May 21st, from 10 to 1 p.m., we're going to be meeting in this room in Town Hall, and it's really a drop by. We're asking folks to come in and share their vision for the new center. So what I'd like to do is, and it will help to get people to pre-register for the Zoom meeting on Wednesday, May 18th, is on the homepage of the town website. We've got, current town projects. We've got the airport under there. All of our work session materials are there, our wireless updates and emergency communications updates. I'd like to add the new senior center, create a landing page. It'll be where all of the documents are kept. So folks that are interested can go and review documents. And also it'll be where they can get information and get the Zoom link for the event on the 18th. So I'm working with Diane Patrizio, our Director of Human Services, and Heath Liebman in IT our IT department head, to pull that all together in the next couple of days.
Great.
We've also asked our 2 architects to come out to the work session next Tuesday, the 10th, because when we hired them, it was a presentation by town staff. Folks haven't had an opportunity to meet and, talk to and question yourselves, our team. So they'll be on, be doing it it'll be a hybrid meeting. They'll be here remotely. And that's really all I have for today. The CAC, East Hampton Sag Harbor CAC met last night, but I haven't put my notes together for that. So I'll do that next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, excuse me, the Montauk CAC met last night. As they discussed, we had discussions about the upcoming beach season and making sure we had appropriate staffing for that. As we heard from Chief Sarlo, it's looking better than it was last year. We had a presentation from Susan Harder about Dark Sky Initiative, and since it was our first in-person meeting in over a year, and we didn't have a quorum. We had it very close to it, but the majority of the members that were present did support the 5 pillars and initiatives for her Dark Sky presentation, and I'll get that to the board shortly also. The Montauk CAC did have a discussion about the airport, knowing as we move forward to the temporary closure and reopening of JPX. Their discussion was about some of the posturing that Blade had put out there as far as diversion to Montauk, and making sure the town board it starts that monitoring of any potential diversion as soon as possible, and not to forget about that aspect of their community concerns. And I assured them that we're not forgetting anything, and we move on it. We also had some discussions about drainage out of Montauk, particularly around Fort Pond and the health of Fort Pond, outfall pipes. I'll get some more information to the board shortly. To keep it a little bit shorter also, I want to let everyone know that the town continues to move forward, and we have the Live Here, Work Here program, and also just a program in which we have great offerings as far as seasonal employees, employment, and also year-round employment. One of the great benefits, great scale and mobility. Please contact our Human Resources Department for our listing, or go onto the town's website for listing of open positions that are there. We did discuss, I will have a resolution on Thursday to move forward to a public hearing about the restriction of smoking on the beaches, as we discussed. The town trustees are also discussing that also then too, because that chapter has to be moved forward in parallel with the support of both boards then too. We did in Montauk discuss right-of-way parking in Montauk and doing some improvements on there. I know I discussed this a couple of months back. I'll bring this to the board over the course of this week then too. 2 things I'll just move on, because the rest I can go into next week as it gets a little longer here. 3 things actually. This weekend is the opening of the Amagansett U.S. Life-Saving Station. They are having a lecturer come in to talk about the United States Life-Saving Service, and we're going to start having our open schedule and season down there. Please look on the website if you're interested to come on down. And again, the committee and myself completely thanks the town board, this current town board, past town boards, for their support of that structure, historical structure. Also, CCOM is going to be doing a couple upcoming, they just actually did an Earth Day garbage pickup in Montauk. There'll be more coming up, but they're going to be doing some floating wetlands installations upcoming in their webinars. Please go to their website. Lastly, I want to thank actually Dylan Akashian and Riley O'Donnell. They're 2 sophomores in the high school, friends of my daughter's, kids that I've seen go through, Little League and a little bit of everything. And also Jen Folks, who is a new executive director of the Montauk Chamber of Commerce. They work with the Montauk Athletic Club by putting on the May Day 5K run walk, which my wife and I participated. She beat me by like a half hour and texted me, "I'm done. Where are you?" "I'm walking. I got hip replacements." Shocker. Get that into me. Anyway, it was a beautiful day on Sunday. I think almost 700 participants there. They raised maybe just a little under $20,000. Most importantly, this benefits the Family Service League, which is a group that helps Long Island residents with over 60 social service programs, as we just heard from the chief. They have new initiatives also. And it was for mental health awareness. And this is very important. And I know as we all have children and family members right now during COVID, and just also with adults, the mental health initiative, and these two girls really put on something from soup to nuts that they should be very, very proud of. So Dylan Cashin and Riley O'Donnell, congratulations to both of you.
And let's hope that this younger generation stops the stigma of mental health and having, going for mental health services. It's great.
Thank you, David. Kate, you have a liaison report?
Yes, I do. I have a couple of announcements. First, community announcements. One, David, I'm just going to echo because I promised I would hold this up and say East Hampton Town is hiring. So I want to always keep that on everyone's minds right now. I spoke of that at the CAC meeting in Springs. Duck Creek has begun their art exhibit schedule. Please go to duckcreekarts.org to see the exhibits. There's an outdoor sculpture and 2 exhibits going on in the barn right now. The Friends of the Blacksmith, that's the Parsons Blacksmith in the heart of Springs, shop will be beginning demonstrations of blacksmithing on Saturday, May 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They are in need of volunteers right now. If you'd like to volunteer, please contact the Springs Library at 631-324-3165. As I mentioned, the Springs CAC met in person, our first time in 2 years, and it was at the Springs School. We got a wonderful tour of the new additions to the school, which are amazing, and the proposed 2022-2023 school budget was presented. The annual meeting, budget vote, and trustee election will be held in Springs on May 17th. The polls will be open at the Springs School Library from 1 p.m. and close at 9 p.m. They also voted to pass a resolution to support the 5 pillars of lighting. There were discussion about the playground at Maidstone, and David, I brought up you as an expert on Parks and Recreation, doing great things in the town, to also join the playground subcommittee to work to update the playground and the picnic area. There's also, I want to just let the public know, something you also informed us, and I informed the committee, of the test boring that people may notice near the Pavilion and the comfort station at Maidstone, and that is for the installation of the nitrogen reducing septic system in the future. Another big concern of the I'm going to say Waynescott CAC, of the Springs CAC, and I think all the CACs, is litter. So we have a group in Springs that formed a litter group called GAG, as I've talked about it. It's a group against garbage. And they've approached me to become a town-wide litter committee, focusing on education and outreach across the CACs. And I'll be bringing up more about that in the immediate future, and proposing a resolution to create that. These are all real strong doers in our community. You'll recognize their name from many other of our town committees. I attended the East Hampton Press Montauk climate change event at Gurney's. David was on the panel and really brought a very good perspective to the discussion. And this is an important discussion on how to plan for a sustainable future for Montauk's downtown business district. It was called Remaking Montauk in the Face of Rising Seas, and it was sold out. It was well attended by 50 members of the community, as well as legislative Bridget Fleming. At that meeting, the draft CARP plan, which is the Coastal Assessment and Resiliency Plan, which was approved by the majority of the committee in draft form, and it is available on the town website. If you go on the front page of the town website, you'll see the press release for the plan, or you can contact me for information at 631-324-2620. The Natural Resources Department and the committee will be bringing bringing that to a work session this month, and with the hopes of finalizing it for adoption. The South Fork Wind Farm construction, their road trenching, and the installation of the TBJ joint, which is for the horizontal directional drilling. That is all completed. They were mandated by their permits and by our own town road easement to be off the town roads on by April 30th, which was accomplished. They will now work on the LIRR right-of-way portion of the onshore project. And then later on in the fall, they'll start the offshore, bring in the cable, and put in about, I think, 4 or 5 vaults, which are really the manhole covers. And when you see people go down them, they go down into little rooms so they can bring the cable through. And that will be finished. And then early in 2023, the restoration and revegetation plans will be beginning. So that project is finished with the initial stages of all the work on our town roads. And I guess we talked about cell communications. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Kate. An update on COVID testing within the town. The last results I have are for April 24th through May 1st. There were 55 people tested with 6 positive for just under 11% positivity rate. There is still quite a bit of COVID around, although what I'm hearing from people who get it is that if you've been vaccinated, boosted, that generally it's pretty mild symptoms on this most recent variant. There are, however, 3 people hospitalized as of the 27th of April at Southampton Stony Brook, 3 patients, of which 2 are on ventilators. Again, if you're not fully boosted, you may want to consider doing so. We had an opportunity to attend the ceremonial groundbreaking for Southampton's Stony Brook Medicine Satellite Emergency Room right here at Panago Road on Saturday. It was a beautiful spring morning, very sunny, and was a great opportunity to gather with a number of community members to celebrate that hospital emergency room coming to East Hampton. I can only look back over the pandemic and think about how things might have been different if we'd had more access to healthcare right here within our community. Having an emergency room right next door certainly would have helped a great deal. It can't be overstated how important it is to have access to community to quality healthcare in the town of East Hampton, especially in emergency situations. We know that with basically one road in and out of town, that trying to get to a hospital takes some doing and takes quite a bit of time, and those are critical minutes in some cases that can mean the difference between life and death. And so this is something that's been in the works for a long time. And I'm very pleased to have been on a board here that's been very supportive of this. And we are reaching the finish line on this project. A great deal of money was raised. Assemblyman Fred Thiel, Ken Laval, former Senator Ken Laval, Senator Anthony Palumbo were instrumental in getting $10 million worth of state seed money towards this project, which the estimated cost is, I think, somewhere around $40 million. The rest of that money raised within our community through generous donations from so many different people in so many different amounts. And, some of the large amounts were extremely significant donations from people who are within the community. Some are new arrivals, but understand the importance, and doing for the community is important. So I'm very pleased to see that we're at this stage, and look forward to construction beginning in earnest at the end of the Little League season. And, we also will need to focus on moving ahead so that we have a Little League season next year on those new fields at Stephen Hans Path. We've talked about Brooks Park studios and house for some time. When the town first purchased the 11.3 acres of property, we did so with the idea of it being open space, and was through the effort of a few community members stepping forward and saying, hey, wait a minute, don't tear down those buildings. They have significance. They were the studios of Charlotte Park and James Brooks, who were instrumental and part of the abstract expressionist movement, which really got its beginnings right here in Springs. And this is a movement that's internationally known. A number of very important artists who were part of that movement, and here locally. And we, through the Town Property Management Committee and with support of board members, have sought to engage the public and engage a 501c3 not-for-profit to operate and manage the property should the town decide to restore those buildings. This has been a really long, ongoing process, and there really hadn't been that much support from the community at large until recently. And, we had considered demolishing the structures because they'd been derelict for a number of years. They had suffered from repeated vandalism, and frankly, they've become an attractive nuisance and a liability and a health and safety issue. And without community support, it didn't seem viable to move forward. I will say that when the town board started discussing possible demolition, that it sparked renewed interest in a few individuals. And frankly, they've been extremely successful, I think, in conveying to the public the importance of these buildings and their place in the history of art and history in Springs and the international abstract expressionist movement. And I feel that at this time, we've reached sort of a critical level and have of community interest and support that I think it's important to commit to this undertaking, which will be a significant one. I think financially, again, this would be paid through CPF funds to restore these structures and have them available to the public and retain them for their historic value and as another opportunity for the town's people and visitors alike to celebrate the import of Springs and the artists that lived there and continue to live there. So for me personally, I think we've reached that. I think we've reached that threshold and come across it. And I think that's really due to the efforts of a number of people who've come together to work on forming a 501c3 to take over, potentially manage and operate the property. Again, this would be a board's decision, but for me personally, I'm ready to commit to that, and I hope I have your support, and we can talk about that more at a further work session. The Beach Preservation Committee met last Friday, and with the Fire Island to Montauk Point formulation study being completed and the work being scheduled to begin, we spent most of our time discussing, what the project actually entails physically, how it would be constructed. This is going to be a massive amount of sand that will be scooped up from an offshore ocean borrow site, and the sand will be pumped up on the beach via a pipe connected to an offshore location. Hopper dredge scours up, fills the hull with sand, and then they pump it at a pumping station from offshore onto onshore through a pipe, and it basically builds up a plume of sand on the beach that then they can move with machines as well as move the pipe along to pump more sand as they go. So I think it was very informative. We had the town's outside consultant from First Coastal, Aram Tertullian, meet with the committee and basically give us some slides showing how this work progressed when they did the replenishment in Southampton. I think it's 8 years ago now that they.
Was that a hopper dredge they used there, or was that a cutter?
I believe it was a hopper dredge, but in essence, the way the pipe is moved down the beach and the sand is distributed is similar in either case. According to him, as he described it, I think it was probably also a hopper dredge due to the quantity of sand. And so it was helpful, I think, for committee members to understand how what the mechanics of that would be and how that would be staged. And, essentially they could do up to 500 feet worth of beach replenishment at, roughly 75 to 80 cubic feet per foot, or cubic yards per foot, rather. This project would be initially 450,000 cubic yards. And this is a cost-free, fully federally funded project for the initial installation. There is a local partnership percentage that the local partner has to pay for a replenishment cycle, which is roughly a 4-year period, and could be up to $400,000 on a 4-year basis. 400,000 cubic yards on a 4-year basis.
It was less than the 600,000 we have to do every year right now.
Well, no. So the replenishment cycle on that, and it's also expanding from 3,200 lineal feet to 6,000. So it's over a mile long now. I think the replenishment we just had was 9,500 cubic yards.
600,000.
9,500 cubic yards for $600,000 versus you're talking 450,000 cubic yards, significantly more sand. This is a massive amount of sand, which again it's really a intermediate solution. This will hopefully give us a little added protection and maintain a nice viable beach there as we move towards longer term, more sustainable solutions. So that was interesting. And part of what the committee will be doing is putting together with Aram, I think, a presentation to present to the public so we can socialize this idea of what it means to have this sand-only replenishment take place. The timeline on when the Army Corps may come is still somewhat up in the air. We've obviously been lobbying to get it here as soon as possible. It is possible that they could come as early as this fall. So that's why we want to start talking about what the project entails. We also had a meeting earlier that week from the Community Housing Fund plan. We discussed basically a review and discussion of draft legislation. Again, this is for the 0.5% transfer tax that will be up for referendum this November. Enabling legislation from the state was passed by the governor this past year, and very much similar to the Community Preservation Fund. This is a transfer tax that only the purchaser of real property within the township pays into, and it would be 0.5% that would go into a fund that the town would administer for the purpose of housing affordability. So that could be, the gamut from offering down payment assistance for first-time home buyers to subsidizing the purchase of homes, equity share in properties, covering the costs of the building of affordable projects, and seasonal housing, and the whole myriad of different aspects of addressing the housing crisis here. And, we all know how dire that's become and what the impacts of of a housing shortage within the town has meant that restaurants aren't able to stay open as many days a week, that town government has trouble filling positions, school districts have trouble finding teachers and other staff, the hospitals having trouble finding nurses and even doctors and attracting people to the area due to the high housing costs. So we know that no one solution or method of trying to address this will solve the problem. We have to attack it from every single aspect. And again, we'll have on our, is it the May 17th work session, we'll be reporting in on progress made on all the different fronts. In January, I declared all hands on housing, and each one of you have taken on various aspects of dealing with the housing crisis, whether it be, moving forward on the Route 114 housing project or 395 Panago Road, looking to identify other properties in town that can be purchased. And again, I don't think we'll be able to build our way out of this problem, nor do I think that's the best approach. We certainly can look at trying to keep existing housing affordable through subsidies to working folks. So that's all I have for today.
I had a question. John this morning recirculated the local law adopting written procedures for meetings of public bodies. We had discussed it last month. Is that being noticed for public hearing? Are we putting that on for this Thursday?
Up to you if you think
there was only, I think only one change was from the draft we discussed was that in terms of what were the various situations in which a board member might remotely, participate was expanded somewhat to be a little bit more
So if you get me feedback on that or anything else you think might be
I just had a question, or maybe two questions. So the first one was disability, second one was illness. And I was thinking maybe it should be illness or medical condition. For instance, if I had knee surgery, I'm not ill, but it might be easier, to remote into a meeting than to,
Yeah, and I think that John, you circulate, was that this morning you circulated?
So are we on, is there a time?
Language.
Yeah, there is.
Well, the extension that was granted by the governor
60
expires June 8th. So, worst case, we'd need to adopt, it'd be ideal if we could do it in May. First meeting in June would be the latest you should adopt it to allow the board to continue the process we've been using. I have been talking to Southampton too, just trying to figure out what they're doing so we could, if we could be close, it would be ideal, but they too have only a draft that hasn't really been decided upon yet. So
the new language lists as the circumstances: disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, absences due to scheduled events which cannot be rescheduled, or for which rescheduling was result in significant economic expense for a member, and then E, any other significant or unexpected factor or event which precludes a member's physical attendance at such meeting. And again, that's fairly broad, and really I think encompassing, so that it would pretty much, I think, capture any circumstance that would.
My only question is, I had brought up when we talked about this last time. So if I wanted to travel and make it a working vacation, what from A to E, if if there were 3 board members that were here in person and I had the ability to do that, under what condition would I be remoting in?
I would say probably the
E.
Yeah.
It's an event which precludes a member's physical attendance in such meeting.
I mean, it's really, there's no guidance on that as of yet. The guidance we've had so far has just been, I would say speculative, because there's nothing from the state that speaks to it, but the comments from, I believe we had one from the Committee on Open Government even, where they basically said, the idea is to more or less require members to be present physically unless they can't be for a valid reason. And there's no real guidance on that point yet. Is that a valid reason, or are you supposed to forego being on a prolonged vacation and attend the meetings instead? I could see situations where if you're away for a wedding or a graduation or something, that there's no way you can reschedule that. You have to, or you won't be there. So I would think that would certainly be legitimate.
I don't really see I don't see a downside myself. I mean, much the same way.
And in general, the
members
board
actually
itself,
participating.
if something comes up that's question whether it's covered or not, it's the board that really makes that decision as a whole. You have the authority to make that decision. And then we'll see we'll see 2 years down the road what the review is of the statute and how it's been working and whether they keep it as is or do some modifications.
So this has a sunset period?
2024.
So it sounds like if this should really be noticed this Thursday.
Ideally,
to be heard.
Right. I would favor that. I'd be supportive of doing that. And I'm fine with the latest draft of language that John has circulated.
So
just add in medical condition.
So I was missing that when this was discussed and getting back. So let's notice it. John, I'll catch up with you a couple points on it then too. I've watched the meeting on there. But yeah, I think that's appropriate because it at least gives us a little bit of a cushion prior to the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
We might get some comments, but thought of. So, and the idea again, as we spoke to, it covers all the boards that the town has.
Yeah, I mean,
Everybody's
you may want to
consistent.
You may want to route it to the other boards.
It's a good idea. Actually, I'll do that. I haven't done it.
Okay. Well, then I think we're just up to resolutions.
I would like to offer resolution 2022-563. This is to correct the account for the previous resolutions 2022-502, 453, and 202 are modified to read to account CM 8681-54520, where a reference is made to the outside professional account, and let it be further resolved that the resolutions are reaffirmed in all other respects.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
And I have the same type of resolution. It's an amendment. It's 2022-564, and it's to amend resolution 2022-510, and it's to change the budget account, or actually, it's not even a change. There was the last number of the budget account was left off when we adopted that resolution 510 on April 19th to accept their proposal from LK McLean Associates for engineering work on the Old Stone Highway Bridge and Culvert. And it was erroneously identified by leaving the last number of the budget account off. So therefore, be it resolved that LK McLean Associates PC will be paid for the engineering services outlined in resolution 2022-510 for an amount not to exceed $44,700, and then the proper budget account is listed. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. 565 is to appoint Aram Tuchinian ex officio to the 2022 Montauk Beach Preservation Committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 566 is to appoint Jeremy Samuelson, Jennifer Nigro to the 2022 Community Housing Fund Plan Committee.
Second.
As ex officio. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 2022-567 is to approve expenditure for the department head's breakfast not to exceed total of $300.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed, carried. Resolution 568 is approved change order number 1 for the Springs Library roof, EH 21041. And that is in the amount of $39,364.38.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. And we have some items to discuss in exec session.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss CPF, a number of leases, and advice of counsel.
Second.
And a license agreement too.
And I'm sorry?
And a license agreement as
Okay.
well. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. So shall we reconvene at, is 2:15, 2:30?
Either one works for me.
2:15 is great.
Okay, 2:15.
Great.
I'll send you a link.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks very much, everyone. Stay safe and be well, everyone.